We are talking about the breaking news item that came out. Look, we all anticipated, as Will did, that maybe it wasn't going to be much of a thing when the Epstein files, if they will be released. What was it going to look like? What was it going to be? It felt a little maybe too good to be true, if you will, in a typical kind of government way. And look, I think we got to be fair here and say Pam Bondi went on Jesse Watters, hyped it up a little bit. The next day, all these influencers were given binders that had the first phase one.
Yeah.
And really what was inside of it and the details that got released were things that had been released for years. Most people had seen versions of this, digitized versions of a lot of the content that was there, maybe some specifics here and there, heavily redacted images. And then, of course, you have what became a very interesting moment, which is maybe the first infighting we've seen publicly between departments in the Trump administration. So you have Pam Bondi sending a pretty spirited email, or not email, but letter to Kash Patel, the FBI director, saying, this is not all that's there. You guys are keeping stuff from us. I have a source that's telling me on the inside that this is happening.
What we have here in this letter from Attorney General Bondi to Director Patel is that before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily of flight logs, Epstein's list of contacts, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. I repeatedly questioned whether this was the full set of documents responsive to my request, and I was repeatedly assured by the FBI we had received the full set of documents. Late yesterday, this is last night, I learned from a source that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files. When I spoke to you yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn this new information. So what we have is an opportunity here. Pam Bondi demanded that by 8 a.m. this morning that she receive everything from the field office in New York. We don't know what's happened yet, but this is a real opportunity moment to, one, expose the deep state, those that defied an order by the Attorney General to give me all of these documents, and for Kash Patel to clean house. Now they should know who is hiding things, who's withholding things. But
the deadline's passed.
They have to deliver on this.
These are more salacious things. They're not necessarily anything that's going to change the world dramatically, you'd think. There's probably, as you said, not a lot more information than we already at least suspect that's in a lot of these documents. But you had a weird moment where Attorney General Pam Bondi, who, again, is a friend, someone that we really respect, and someone that I think is incredibly talented, she goes on Fox News and says, hey, tomorrow you're going to start seeing some stuff. Jesse Watters pushes back and says, what kind of stuff? Are we actually going to see things? She said, yep, you're going to see flight logs. You're going to see a lot of it. It's going to start rolling out.
Why do people care about Jeffrey Epstein in this story? It's salacious. It made a lot of headlines. But at the core of it, it's an individual who is running an egregious human trafficking ring, and potentially high-profile politicians, celebrities, wealthy billionaires could all be implicated in some way. And for years, they've been protected. No one other than Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were indicted. Ghislaine Maxwell serving 20 years in prison. Jeffrey Epstein died before his trial in jail. And so everyone has the question, because as Attorney General Bondi said, there's more than 200 victims. And when you have more than 200 victims, it begs the question of where are the others that have committed crimes, and why has no one been held accountable? That's why people care about this. It's not just about the gossip and the salaciousness of the names involved, but getting to the core of something very corrupt happening in this country, and elites getting away with it because of who they are. So when there are people in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York and the FBI field office in New York that are obstructing what the Attorney General, their boss, is asking, saying, give me everything, and they say, we have. But in reality, they were covering up by withholding everything she asked for. That's a very serious problem.
Jeffrey Epstein was a very powerful guy and also a very well-liked guy who did a lot of favors for people. If you look at the flight logs, you're going to find a lot of names that you're familiar with, some that you're not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they committed crimes. That doesn't mean necessarily just because they knew this guy, went to his house, did anything, that anything nefarious happened. So you have that situation where though you'll find out who would be on a flight log, that doesn't, say that they committed any crimes. Often they were flying on his planes without him because they were chartering those planes back and forth or he was giving them. So there's a lot of that, Susan, where just a list, though we have a list of the flight log, it doesn't necessarily always line up with, well, they clearly were involved in this horrible ring.
Well, and the other problem as well is they released his address book effectively, meaning for many people in the public, oh, if he had your phone number, you're a criminal. That's more harmful than it is helpful. That's why getting all the other information, what was the FBI doing? Did the FBI look into other people? Were they trying to shut this down, not just by getting the head of the ring, but also those that may have purportedly participated in crimes? We did want to ask you, Professor Hutchison, about the deep state within the FBI that is seemingly one defying orders from the Attorney General by not turning over information that she requested, as well as the fact that in and of itself, not turning these things over, it appears the deep state doesn't want transparency to the American people against the wishes of both the FBI director and the Attorney General. How serious is that?
Well, I think it's very, very serious. And so I think we are now living in a world of defiance on one hand, but also a world of make-believe. In other words, the deep staters believe that they are more important than the elected representatives of the American people. Pam Bondi was appointed by a democratically elected individual, President Trump, but many people in the DOJ, many people in the FBI still believe that they are indeed superior in authority and expertise. And so what we've seen transpire in New York City, I think, is an example of that. And one of the things that Kash Patel needs to do expeditiously is to clean house. And so one of the things that I would encourage him to do immediately is to fire the leadership in New York City and install new leaders, perhaps from Nebraska, perhaps from Mississippi or North Dakota, someone who is untainted by the New York office. And we also need to clean out the DOJ's office in New York as well.